Slow down, lay your burden down.
Hey, this is Dan, and welcome to episode 5 of Divergent Paths with Dan Dunford. Just a few quick things before we get to the interview. One date for me this upcoming week, I will be playing with the delightful funk band Sharif Keys and the Groove tonight at the Soho Grand Hotel. Even if you're listening to this after that has happened, still look up Sharif and his band. You won't regret listening to their music. Our music, I guess, since I'm playing with them now. It's a fun little turn. I play in this hip hop group, Orchestra Holistic, and several of the horn players and one of the violinists also plays in this band, Sharif Keys and the Groove. And I popped in this past Thursday just to hang out and watch the group and see some people. And I show up after a rehearsal with my trombone, and trumpet player Achilles, who I know, he just turns to me, he's like, "Are you down to play?" And so I said yes, and I got up on stage and played with them, and it was really fun, and I was not expecting to do that, and now I'm playing with them tonight, so that's fun. Right. So today's interview is with my friend Robb, and she's a really cool person. I've known her for 3 or 4 years, and she's she is a producer and pianist. She has a company with her partner called B3D Music Productions, and they produce records. They create their own music, and we talk about a lot of that. So I won't spoil too much of it. But she's an exceptional musician and is now doing something completely different in a lot of ways than what she was trained to do in a conservatory setting. And so we get into that and how that's different. One quick note about our talk, however, Deb lives in East Harlem, near some very busy intersections, so there is some noise from the Metro North train and from traffic that I did my best, but we weren't able to completely get rid of. So there's some of that, but it's not enough to be distracting. So I think it's probably okay. But moving on. So in addition to the interview, at the end of the show today is a brand new single from B3D featuring Issa, who again we talk about during the interview and about the process of making music and collaborating with Issa. So the song is called "Find You," and it's really cool. I enjoyed it very much, and I think you will as well, or you should. And so yeah, for Deb and for B3D, you can find all of across all the social media platforms, B3D Music, or B3D Music Productions, depending on the platform. But we run down all of that during the show. Issa, who sings on Find You, as well as B3D's first single, Higher, which is a really cool song as well. If you're interested in finding some more of her stuff, you can go to isthatisa.com, and that's her Isa is spelled ISA. So keep that in mind. She's also on Twitter at isthat_Isa. So I hope you check her out in addition to checking out Deb and her stuff with B3D. And if you are wanting to find me for some strange reason, you can hit me up on Facebook through the podcast page. It's Divergent Paths with Dan Dunford. Twitter, Divergent Pod, or send me an email at divergentpathspod@gmail.com. Shoot me an email, say hey. And if you enjoy the podcast, as always, please like the Facebook page, subscribe on iTunes, and write a review, give me a 5-star rating. These are all things that are good for me and good for you because it means you're a good person. So, yeah, that was ridiculous. Anyway, enjoy my talk with Deb, and talk to you guys next week.
Slow down.
This neighborhood is really fascinating to me because there's like
Me too.
well, because it's such an interesting place because of the there's a lot of schools right around here, and then there's the 125th Metro North Station, and you get such a wide cross section of the people in the city in this one.
It's weird.
Pretty
ghetto
area.
area.
It's not the poorest area. That's just across the river in my neighborhood, but it's whenever I'm here, it's so interesting to go to the Metro North Station, and there's rich people getting on and off the trains and walking by people sitting in puddles of their own pee.
It's
like,
so weird.
It's like the perfect cross section of New York, and
You see where it says the podiatric medicine, the building?
Yeah.
They're right in front of that. They're going to build a high-rise luxury apartment complex.
like that miserable looking one on 57th Street that you can see from everywhere.
Yeah. So it's going to block like the half of the bridge.
And your beautiful view.
But I mean, they've already started clearing out the homeless people.
Oh
that
boy.
hang out right there, yeah.
Well, they've got a while to go.
They do, but it's been crazy to see the change even just like in the last few months. It's weird.
So, I mean, do you still like it here?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna live here for another like 2 years until I'm able to like financially not live here. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty. I'm fairly content.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking earlier, living here for 2 weeks, was like a really good primer for me moving then to the South Bronx because like this is like a slightly better version of that. And
I heard the South Bronx isn't too bad though.
Well, I mean, it's not bad. I love it, it's one thing I found after I moved there was that it's the poorest congressional district in the country. Now I can't send you to a link where it says that. My roommate, who's one of my old roommates who lived there and taught there for 5 years before I moved in, he's kind of like a part of the neighborhood, and he likes talking about the South Bronx because he loves it. But that was one of the things that he mentioned right around the time I moved in 2 years ago. But it was cool. It was a cool thing. But
Wow.
I mean, not cool. I'm currently one of 12 white people, and I kind of like it that way.
It's like I'm the only Asian person here, so it's all good. Yeah, I'm known as the Asian girl with the dog in this building.
Oh.
So,
well,
like in this mile radius, probably. So.
Malty.
Yeah.
So, you spent your life being a classical pianist.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are a lot of things that go along with that. And, you know, you went, correct me if I'm wrong, if I remember this correctly, you went to Boston Conservatory, did your undergrad there, and then you did your thing at Manus for a couple years, and, you know, you did a lot of the new music stuff. You played in non-standard ensembles, I mean, with percussion and weird setups, through different things.
Yeah.
And then you finished, and you're 2-3 years out, and now your most recent thing that is attached to your name is a very well done EDM track.
Yeah. So
I mean just kind of generally, like, what the hell?
Right. That's fair. So, yeah, I mean, I graduated from Mass, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to be a pianist, and how will I make money doing this?
Because there's literally tens of thousands of pianists I was going to say the tri-state area, but it's just in this city.
Oh, it's insane. I mean, the competition's insane. I mean, I really stepped back and looked at, like, what my options were my second year in grad school, and, like, what I was going to do once I graduated. This wasn't on my list per se of what I thought I was going to do, but, you know, I had, like, the idea of, like, starting up a studio and teaching and playing it in small cities in the States who are somewhat deprived of culture and music, and, like, play and perform there, you know, and just do small towns and stuff like that.
Because you had, I don't know if you still do, but you had your studio back home in Pennsylvania, like a piano studio, and you did concerts there, right?
Yeah, I was trying to build a studio there. They, you know, it's the suburbs of Philly. They didn't really want to pay my rate. So it's like, you know, this is my rate. Why? Because I have a master's degree in piano performance.
And I'm really fucking good at piano.
Yeah, but they didn't
it.
want to pay me for it, and I eventually couldn't grow that studio back home, and so the time and investment of going back home to Pennsylvania and doing all that just became more of a hassle than of a benefit. So that stopped, and I just was literally going on Craigslist looking at gigs that I could get in the city. And
that's how I got my first gig here.
Why not, right? So I did a gig with like a EDM singing duo at the Waldorf, and
for you staid proper classical musicians, EDM means electronic dance music.
Yes. so
just kidding. I don't think you're that stupid.
So I did a gig with them in the city, and that was the September after I graduated. So it'd only been a few months. And shortly after that, I mentioned that I was curious about production, and one of the singers was like, well, I know who you should meet and where to bring you. So he brought me to Chunking Studios in Midtown, where I met DJ Yanni and producer Bruno. And I kind of went there thinking I was just going to observe or whatever. And they put a keyboard in front of me, and I just started playing. And they're like, okay, you're a part of this group now. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's that easy. Come on. That's what success looks like.
So I was like, sweet. I am part of this production crew. I was like, this is amazing. So I started working with them and working at a studio. And it was just totally unexpected and not what I had planned or thought was going to happen whatsoever.
And was it paying, like, upfront right away, or is
it
just a kind of a, I don't want to say pro bono, but
yeah, it was more like getting remix work and then pitching it to the artists through their labels to see if they wanted to purchase the remix. So, you know, after a year doing that and making pretty much not a lot of money.
Sounds like you were the remix intern.
Yeah, I mean, we were working hard, and it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. So Bruno and I kind of partnered up together and started up a production company.
But the experience you gained doing that,
yes, was huge.
I mean, one thing that a lot of musicians roll their eyes at is, especially here, is that when gigs don't necessarily pay, and you go there and they're like, oh, well, the experience is really good, and we're giving you some food. And a lot of musicians roll their eyes at that, and to be fair, I have too.
Mm-hmm.
But in many cases, like, it's true. The experience a lot, especially when you're starting out with something that you don't have a whole lot of experience with, that you have to get it somewhere,
Yeah, you do. You really do. And that was a great first step into getting into that world and knowing more about it, because I had never even stepped foot in a studio before, let alone looked at Pro Tools or Ableton or, I found out later that Ableton was offered at Pianist, but I didn't know that until after I graduated.
And to be fair, it hasn't really been something that they've really pushed for until the last probably 18 months or so.
Yeah, like I had no clue.
Well, let's halt on that. We'll come back to it, but so just like straight up piano wise, okay, back even further. Like you're from the suburbs of Philly.
So I grew up in Oregon.
Oh,
yeah.
I knew that. I totally knew that.
Yeah, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. Started playing when I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
Taking lessons when I was 4. Yeah.
And are your parents musical?
Yeah, my dad's whole side of the family, my aunts and uncles I have 10 aunts and uncles on my dad's side. Half of them play more than half play instruments. My aunt has perfect pitch. Like, they all play something. And then my mom's side, her sister also played cello and had perfect pitch. So I kind of got a good confluence of the gene pool, I would say, from both parents.
And do you have perfect pitch? Did you get that gene?
Yeah, I luckily got that. So, thanks, guys. Yeah, so it worked out. But yeah, so I grew up very much having that in my blood.
Now, if I remember right, your mom is Korean.
Yeah.
Your dad
looks like William Shatner, like white. Straight up American.
Yeah. Now, like in the classical music world, in any conservatory setting, you have a large influx of people from Korea, from Japan, from China. They come over to do, they might have degrees from the conservatories in their home countries, but they come over here to get an American degree because somehow that has more worth, apparently. So when you were, and I'm just gonna say it, when someone meets you, you can see, oh, this person is Asian, Korean. Now, did that bring along with it like preconceptions that like were like strange for you when you were because classical music and studying classical music in the States but is often dominated by people from different Asian countries.
Right. Especially pianists and
violinists.
Violinists, it's true.
It's just
yeah, it's
true
what it is.
How it is. Did you kind of like look at that and face people being like, oh, of course, you were like this because you're obviously of Asian descent?
It would depend, because Asians would think I'm white and white people would think I'm Asian. But what I do remember being kind of funny was in middle school, I was still able to qualify in like the Korean piano competition because I was still half. And then I went in and beat everyone, which I thought was kind of funny. But
how did they feel about that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Probably not too thrilled. But yeah, I think that stereotype definitely gets played a lot. And it's kind of weird now in the world that I'm in because it's such a male-dominated world that I went from being like every other Asian pianist, female pianist, to like still being that female Asian pianist, but being a female producer, which is rare, I would say. You don't hear that very often.
So you went from one pretty radical stereotype, pretty overarching stereotype, to kind of another in a way, like assuming that so what? That's interesting.
Yeah.
So So like when you're growing up, were you doing like the normal piano things, like practicing 6 hours a day and entering these insanely competitive competitions, or was it,
Yeah. I mean, I'd practice like 2 hours a day. Even in
Hmm.
high school, I maybe practiced 2 hours a day. But I remember in elementary school practicing an hour before school and an hour when I came home.
Was that of your choice, or were you made to do that?
Good question. Probably both. More made to do it maybe by my mom, but I did it and I worked hard and I did what needed to be done. And I wanted to do it, of course. It wasn't like something that was like forced upon me, but
Right.
I do recall though, like listening to Daft Punk and like pop music in high school and being like, wow, this music excites me in a way that like Beethoven doesn't, and feeling like kind of guilty about it. And like I didn't like really say anything, but like one thing that my dad always really implemented in me since I was a kid was don't be a pianist, be a musician. So I always like improvise, or I'd go play at Nordstrom's as a kid. I always play at retirement centers. Like I listen to Beatles tunes and just like learn it by ear and just play it and just improv that style of music. So I kind of grew up doing that, which has now helped me crossing over from classical music world to now pop and popular music style stuff.
Well, yeah, that's interesting that you had you kind of had that bug in you, and the fact that you felt like you had to hide it from your classical peers is
I just didn't like really say anything. I was like, is that bad? Like, I don't know.
Will I be taken seriously as a musician if I admit that I'm like super into this?
Yeah. And I gotta say, like, I thought, oh, pop music is simple, pop music is easy, there's nothing to it, like, but having now been in that world, it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's really hard, and it was really, and at times still for me, frustrating because I felt like I went from being a person who was just so comfortable with what she was doing, which, was classical piano, to now going from that to starting over again. I spent 6 to 8 hours a day for months with Ableton every day. I was practicing in that sense, right? So I just felt like I was relearning everything, and it was kind of like starting fresh again, which was a frustrating feeling because I had just spent 20 years of my life conquering this instrument. And now I was conquering, programming and Ableton and understanding engineering, knowing how to use a compressor, how to use an EQ, reverb, delay, all of this stuff. And that was just completely foreign to me. And I was so shocked looking back, just being like, how is there such a schism between classical music and just music that involves technology?
Whenever I was actually just talking to a cellist who does, incredible cellist, does classical, but recently has been doing primarily rock band stuff, and I was talking to her about this, and she took all of the techniques that she learned and had to spend months and years refining them to use in a rock setting. And often people, your classical peers, if you will look at you and be like, oh, that's easy. I could do that. I could walk into your Rockwood or your Bowery Electric and just do what you're doing. And it's absolutely not true.
Or they just look down on it.
Or they wouldn't even be open enough to try it.
No.
But do you think that your experience, like, well, I mean, let's face it, a lot of being in a conservatory or studying music is sitting in a room by yourself with an instrument and just hammering away and really just going at it for hours. So did you find it easier to actually put in the time working, even though you were starting over in a different art form, well, in a related, but art form that uses different parts of the musicality, did that make it easier for you? Or
well, I also just like knew how to like practice something for 4 to 6 hours a day, right? Because that's what I've been doing since college. So I knew how to just like sit down and work it out and learn these things. But yeah, definitely that skill set helped a lot.
Do you possibly think that might give you an advantage in some ways over some some of your peers in your new world? Not because you're not because you're better than them or something like that, but just because you have inside you built in that skill set of knowing how to lay out, how to work on something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and definitely having musical knowledge and theory and just like knowing how to do all that. Like I can arrange vocals. I know how to like, I can just listen to something and just play it really fast. Like it doesn't take a lot of thinking, so I can get things done a lot quicker from a musical sense. Whereas most people, I feel like in the production world may not even know how to like read music, which is fine. They don't need to.
Yeah.
Like why would you need to, But
and that doesn't necessarily make you less of a
no,
producer.
because I've met great musicians who can't read music, but man, can they play and they can pick it up and just feel it and just create songs and just do things that classical musicians cannot do. So yeah, I'm just at that point where I'm trying to bring in the best of both worlds, and that's what I can offer as a musician and a producer.
We've been friends for 3 or 4 years, since and I remember when I first met you in our little Manus crew. Yeah. But even though like I knew from the I heard you play pretty early on in that, and I knew pretty quickly that you were a really good musician, but also you didn't, your attitude about it was, it wasn't that you didn't care, but it was a much more laid back attitude in your approach to music. Yeah, you take your time and like, yeah, I can't hang out tonight, gotta do this.
Yeah.
But it was always like, it was never the sense of strangling the music to your, strangling your music to your world, and like to your will rather, and like letting your musicality flow from a less what's the word I'm looking for? A less rigid sensibility.
Right, because then that shows in your music.
Yeah.
And that's may not necessarily sound great, if you're uptight like that.
Well, I mean, I feel like that sometimes gets hammered into you, whether you want it or not. But
right.
Being able to retain that autonomy serves you well in a lot of aspects, but also your musicality, in my opinion. So do you still go back and forth and do classical, or are you just all in on this new life that you've created for yourself?
I mean, right now I'm all in just because it's so time consuming. I never thought I'd be running a startup business. I've always been fascinated by running a company. So to me, that's really fun. But yeah, a lot of time and energy has been spent right now trying to get the company going and creating a lot of output of music. So yeah, I haven't necessarily been practicing 2 hours a day since, but I really miss chamber music, if anything. I really miss playing in like a quartet or trio setting. Do I miss practicing 4 to 5 hours a day on, a Rachmaninoff, like Etude Tableau that takes 2 minutes to play, but a year to like get down? No, I don't know. Do I appreciate? Well, I always love it, of course. But we'll see. We'll see.
So, part of the challenge of being a musician and being in such an overwhelmingly deep pool of musicians is just sitting down and starting out for yourself, looking at what's there, looking at the marketplace, and taking advantage of what you think might be a hole, or just looking at it with a perspective of, this is something I like and this is something that I can do well. Let's make something. Let's take this art form and make it really, really great. But looking at that and deciding to start out for yourself in a different field, like what did that look like? I mean, you said you met this Bruno, and
Yeah.
you were like, you just decided to start this production company.
Right, right.
Like, what went into that? I'm assuming it wasn't quite as off the cuff as it's.
No, I mean, we had been working together prior, so I knew what his work ethic was. We think alike.
Mm-hmm.
We balance each other out well. His skill set is engineering and production, so he can mix and master anything and make it sound incredible. He's been working in the business for years. Yeah. Anyways, he's been in the business and doing this for years, and has worked with a lot of great people, big name people as an engineer.
Such as
Jaheim, Jerry Wonder, Wyclef. I mean, he played guitar on a Justin Bieber record. He's been in the room with Beyonce. I mean, he's been in the room with like these huge artists. And now he wants to put out his own music and be a producer as well, which he has been doing for years. So,
which a lot of people have found success doing. And people go from producing to from like just working with big artists to becoming their own big artists.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it just like kind of clicked between us, just a good balance, and his skill set is a good complement to mine and vice versa. So we're able to do literally everything from start to finish and not have to bring in extra people, because generally, you can produce something, but then you need to find an engineer to mix it, find an engineer to master it. You gotta, who does the vocal tracking and all that, but we can do everything, which is, I think, unusual, but really a great skill set and combination package to have.
So when you set out to start this, the two of you, what did that look like? I mean, just
yeah, I mean, at first it was like, okay, we're working together, like, that's for sure. And then it was like, okay, we work really well together. What is the next step? Okay, let's pick a name. So we picked a name, which was B3D. Then it was, okay, now we need to find an entertainment lawyer. We need to set this stuff up as an LLC. So, getting all of that business law stuff set, so that we could have the foundation and groundwork set up. So once we're legally, covered and we have our LLC set up, it's like, okay, now we're official. We're an official company. Then it's going out finding clients and like, producing for people and like getting our music out there, and as well as our clients' music, that we work with. So.
And how you guys have been your own company for about a year, if I remember correctly, maybe a little.
Yeah, I think, a little less than a year officially in terms of like the LLC. Yeah.
Right. So what has, in any new thing, I guess it takes a while to get momentum going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just curious, what does this first year look like for you? And what have been like some of the challenges that you guys have faced while striking out for your own or for yourselves? What are some of the best parts of what you guys have done, and maybe some things that like really were tough to get through, but you did?
Yeah. Well, I guess the tough stuff was really, when you're starting out with a new company or a new business or whatever, you're going to be spending a lot more money than you're making.
Right.
So, but you got to spend money to make money. So that was kind of the tough thing, was just knowing that we had to spend money and like incur the cost for a lot of things, but knowing that we had to do it to just set everything up. But that's something you work through, and the benefit then is when you get clients who don't have a problem paying you, because they know the quality that they're going to get. The benefit is just working with really talented and great clients, and you get paid, and you get paid for doing what you love, and you really enjoy working with these people because they're great to work with. So that's always a great thing when that comes through.
Well, it's I can just imagine that. Well, I mean, this podcast thing that's my little thing in
Right.
the world. But what I was going to say is that it's once you get everything set up and you've paid your lawyers and you've done the paperwork, you've set up the LLC, or in my case, you've bought the equipment, you've lined up the people, you've recorded stuff. Then you actually have to do it. Then you have to do what you say you're going to do, and that's a kind of like a terrifying situation to be in because there's so many ways it can go. You could, one in the podcasting thing, there's something called pod fading, which is, you do 20 episodes and then it just kind of peters out, and you're never heard from again.
Man. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
wow.
And it's once, and in your case, like it can be the same kind of thing. Like, what if the right client doesn't come through the door, and what if but you kind of have to push through and keep working on it. So well then, like, what are the great things that have happened for you guys as a group this past year? Like, who have you been able to work with? Can if you talk about it, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, we've put out the song Higher. That's our first single. We just did the remix for that, which we'll put out as well. And then we're going to put out another song in a month. So, and with those songs, we worked with Issa, who's a great singer-songwriter.
Now, when you, like, right after, like, a few months after you graduated was when you started working with Issa.
Yeah, as a pianist in her band.
Now, how did you hook up with her? Was it
Craigslist?
Yeah.
Craigslist has done a lot of great things for me.
Well, I remember in that very short period that you saved my life and let me stay here while I was looking for a place. Like, I met her just like one day you were rehearsing here, and I walked in and she was like, "Oh, hey, I'm Issa," and now, like, 2 years later, and I'm assuming going forward in the future, you're working with her, and she's a very talented singer and great voice. Craigslist, I'm telling you. Hey, Craigslist, can you sponsor me?
That summer, I just got really lucky, let me tell you. Well, but
yeah, it's lucky. You can get lucky with a break, but it's taking advantage of that break.
Well, luck is where preparation meets opportunity, right? I was prepared for the opportunity, and I made the most of it, and this is where I ended up because of that. So, to me, that's luck.
So when the last time I looked on ye old YouTube at the music video for Higher, which you just released a few weeks ago, song's been out for a bit now, but the video just came out, and I rewatched it. I was like in the first 20 people that watched it, because you posted it, and I was just like sitting on my stoop. I was like, oh nice, let's watch it. But then I before I contacted you, I like pulled it up again, and it had gone from that 10 views to when I looked, it was around 36,000, and in just a short period of time, and that has to feel great.
Yeah. I mean, it really does feel great. Especially when you like have never produced a video before and you do that for the first time. It's
where did you guys? Well, if you're listening, you should definitely check it out. The song is Higher, B3D featuring Issa and
DJ Nice.
And where did you guys film that?
Brooklyn. Yeah.
It was a cool vibe.
Yeah. No, it turned out really great. We got an hour of sleep that night, so.
Well, I'll bet.
Woo, yeah.
What time of day was it that you were filming?
We got up, I think, at 4 or 5 in the morning, and of course, I had gone to bed at 3 a.m. Something ridiculous.
Well, I mean, it's
start filming at 6 in the morning.
It's only a huge part of your career. Why would you do it on a full night's rest? I mean, come on.
I mean, right? I mean, who has time for sleep anyway?
I was listening to an interview with SNL maven Lorne Michaels, and he was talking about how some of the best sketches have come out of him running his writers ragged with little sleep and crazy hours. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Fatigue breeds this unhinged sort of genius that can bring this unhinged sort of genius out of an artist or a writer or whatever you are.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I was somebody who could function on 4 hours of sleep, but
no,
I need 6, unfortunately. Yeah.
So, just the experience of working on that, your your first single.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, first time, 100th time, things always happen and things don't work out the way where you expected. How did that how did that run for you guys? Was it?
Well, for me, this was all new.
Mm-hmm.
Bruno, not so much. So there was a lot where I just was freaking out, and the release date was getting pushed back, or like this came up, that came up, and I'm a generally pretty chill person, but when things kind of teeter off course, I have a tendency to get very nervous and freak out about it. So one of the biggest things I learned this past year, especially, is patience. Things take time. They're not fast. Like, it's a fast moving world, and you think that these things move fast, but like it just doesn't. And like, things change, plans change, release dates change, and you just really have to go with the flow. So I've just learned to be really patient, just go with the flow.
Well, something that comes up a lot in relation to producing an album or television show or a film is you have something that I thought was very interesting is you have your entire life to release your first thing. You can take everything from who you are, what you want to say, what you want to put yourself out there as. It's after, and you have all the time in the world to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's after that the clock starts ticking. So you have it's almost more important to be patient with that very first thing you're putting out, because you want it to encapsulate as much as possible, like really what you want.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I felt very frustrated because I felt like I wasn't catching on to things as fast as I could have in terms of like producing, getting the right sound.
Mm-hmm.
That took time for me to get the hang of and to learn, but that was also frustration just from like feeling like, oh, I'm starting all over again, but I quickly realized, oh, I am actually progressing fast and like doing pretty damn well considering. So you got to cut yourself some slack, but I am very hard on myself and I do push myself really hard. Yeah.
What is it? What do you have? What is coming next that you're working on? You said you're releasing a song, another single coming soon. Now are these singles that you're releasing going to be compiled into an album, or is it just kind of?
Right now they're singles. I mean, I would like to eventually release an EP for sure, definitely.
Do you have like a timeline for how you want how you want to progress over the next, or you're just kind of like focusing in on making the best thing you can right now? And
yeah, that's kind of how I'm taking it. I am in a sense going with the flow on that. Definitely, I would love to put out an EP. With these 2 songs being released as singles, I think it's perfect and appropriate. But we'll see what comes in the next year for sure. We just finished producing an album, Issa's album actually, which sounds incredible. I mean, her songwriting is great. Her and I worked on it together, so she'd come to me with the melody and then I would compose around it. Whereas oftentimes in production, somebody will write the instrumental, just write a beat, where things are looped and there's not too much creativity in it. And then the singer will write on top of that. I really dislike working that way.
Right.
Sometimes it's totally appropriate. That's how we did Higher. We had the beat written. I then gave it to Issa and she wrote to it, and it turned out great. But when I really want to like compose something and like create something really great, it's also, that's another great way to do that, is to write around the melody.
Well, and then don't you get a writer credit on the album? Yeah, so that's a good, that's that's an added bonus.
Yes.
Oh man, I wrote songs with my with a close friend, and it's good for my career.
Yeah, right. I know.
Poor me.
So there's a lot of great stuff that we have coming out in the next couple months.
So when
sure.
Does she have a release date for that album?
I believe, well, the single I believe will be out in late September, and then the album I believe should be out in October.
Great. So what is so what's the single?
Take It Slow, which is
Why are you telling me to do something?
No, which is, Take It Slow is a great example of me composing around the melody. That's a very like Sam Smith Adele style where it's just piano and voice and like a really mellow like kick, but that's it. And what's cool about it is I did layers and layers and layers of piano. So you have like one line where it's just ping sounds of delayed piano, reverse piano. When I figure out how to do reverse piano in Ableton and doing like that reverse effect of a note, I couldn't tell you how happy I was because that is just something you obviously cannot do on an acoustic piano.
Right.
That every other instrument can pretty much do. So when
my world opened up so much.
Oh my God, let me tell you, when I did that, I was like, I'm putting reverse piano on everything. So you'll hear it in the beginning of the track and there's parts of it. But yeah, it's just like doing layers and layers. And instead of using like a bass sound, I'll get a somewhat muffled kind of octave bass from a piano. And that is used as like the bass foundation of it.
And it produces something that's a little more unique as opposed to using the sounds that everyone else uses.
And actually the song Find You that we're releasing in September, there's prepared piano hit sounds in it. So it's cool. Like people definitely won't notice that or can tell, but yeah, I put prepared piano sounds in it, you know, of someone samples of somebody smacking the side of a piano, but it sounds really cool, you know? It sounds great.
So you spent tens of $1,000s on conservatory education and you pulled from that one class where you talked about John Cage and now you're using it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Conservatory. It was worth it.
When I saw that was like something that I could do in a plugin, I got so excited because I had no idea that, you know, that was there. So
you talking about writing and composing these songs with Issa. Did you have prior experience? I mean, obviously, you have experience with voice leading and the kind of stuff that you have to do for any music degree. Writing, you always have to write a fugue, and you always have to write melodies and stuff. But other than that thing that pretty much every musician has to do at some point. Did you have experience doing this, or did you kind of like...
Yeah, I mean, I've always improv'd.
Okay.
Ever since I was a kid. And, I wrote a tiny, dinky song. I wrote a song when I was 5. Like, I composed a song. Yes, my dad helped me, like, write it out and stuff because I was 5 years old. But, like, I wrote my first song when I was 5, technically. So, that's always kind of been there. But I love playing with different chord structures and like how can you make this work with this melody line, like, and Take It Slow. You don't really realize it. It's kind of like a piano phase. You listen to it and it's just like you're just in it, right? 7 minutes go by and you don't even realize that the notes have changed. And he actually ends the song on a totally different note key pattern, right? So something like that I always thought was cool, and I accidentally actually did that in Take It Slow, where the last part of the chorus is a totally different chord progression, but still sounds similar to the other one. I've like modulated...
Tricks your ear.
Yeah, like the melody line doesn't change, but the chords somehow modulated into C major from G or something, So it's like subtle things like that. I love doing, I love doing stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, okay, this is just for me to make sure I have it straight. Take It Slow is the single you're releasing, or it's...
Sorry, Take It Slow is the single for Issa's album.
Okay, and that's what's coming out in September? No.
Yeah, that is coming out in September. Also, B3D single, Find You, is also coming out in September, and that's also featuring Issa. Sorry, it's a lot of Issa and B3D. Yeah.
I just wanted to, because when I was actually asking you that, I was asking you about the B3D single. But, but guess what? That's great too, because...
Well, I can talk about that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wanted to hear about both.
Oh, okay.
It's just in a different order than... I wasn't sure which one we were talking about.
Oh, sorry. Okay, that was for Issa's single, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Find You, that was actually a song that Bruno and another singer-songwriter, Lori, had put together. And it kind of just changed and warped into... I was like, oh, let me try to rework the instrumental, and so I did, and then I was like, wait, this is actually kind of cool. Then I gave it to East, and she wrote on top of that, and then it turned into this cool kind of Middle Eastern sounding, earthy kind of beat thing. It just turned out really cool, but even then, like, the chord progression changes. It's not the same chords leading into the chorus, for example. Like,
right.
It's different the second time, but it's so subtle that I don't even think people would really notice unless they sat down and decided to like do dictation on it or something.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
Well, I think that, I mean, and this isn't always the case. There are classical musicians who have tried their hand at certain like non-classical things, and it hasn't worked out as well. But I think that a classical musician in a non-traditional setting like pop, rock, whatever, it brings something interesting to the table, because the best rock and pop and dance music, they do interesting things with it. They play with strange chords, and they play with differing sounds, and it makes them stick out from the rest of the pack. Yeah, sure. Like these things, there are certain things that are super popular for a while, but there's the guys who last really branch out and do great work with interesting things. So being a classical musician, you have that built into you. You have to learn these things from, they start beating it into you when you're 18, and some people start earlier. So like you can take all of this stuff that you understand intimately and create something, and it makes it a little easier to create something. Oh wow,
yeah, it does.
What am I hearing? People might not understand what it is, but I think people respond to it.
Yeah, and they can really feel it.
Yeah,
whether they can pinpoint what it is or not, they feel it. People know what's good. I think I genuinely believe that. Whether they know how to tell you why it's good or not, probably not. But people know when something is great.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Swift, just great.
I mean, she knows how to write a hit song, that girl. Like, she knows what's up.
even what people consider like trashy pop music,
right?
There is something very special about being able to write a good tune that sticks in your head.
There is something special, and this is something I learned when I came out of school and was doing this. There is a genius to simplicity. I'd go in and play 1,000 notes because I was like, this is what I'm used to. I'm going to just play a bunch of notes, And then I learned, sometimes just playing a chord is appropriate. You don't need to be doing all this stuff. And now looking at pop music and like what's catchy and getting an earworm and all that stuff, like, yes, there is a genius to simplicity.
I mean, a single note or chord can be, yeah, sure. This is just an A flat minor chord,
right? But
it can be so much more than that. It can be just heartbreaking or heart stopping.
Yeah.
In the and it's just a simple A flat minor chord. And knowing when to put that in there is just as important as being able to play.
It's true.
Play your 30-second note runs in whatever Bach or Rachmaninoff or Liszt,
you gotta have pieces. A taste for it too, knowing where to put this or put that,
And so how has that process been for you? I mean, like learning when it's appropriate to throw in something super flashy, and Obviously it's still a process. You never stop working on it.
Yeah, well, that's where working with other people,
Mm-hmm.
that really helps. Because if you're just sitting at home on your laptop working on songs, you're like, I don't know, maybe this part isn't right. But then you play it and they're like, oh, that's great. You got to put that in there. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It helps when you're working with other people.
And that's the kind of thing that you mentioned Bruno balances you out really well. Is that something that he helps take on? Like,
Yeah, and
working together?
he'll put bass lines on. He's a great guitar player. Like, he'll know, like, oh, put this there, put that there. He's got a great ear and taste for that as well. So, yeah.
And it works out.
Yeah, it works out. And then we get a great product. Yeah.
So do you guys do live shows? Are you?
Yes, that is something that we are working towards, definitely, because you got to perform, you got to be out there. You can't just be at home behind your laptop. Well, you can.
You
if
can.
You want,
it works
sure.
for some people,
but I don't think that's what we want. I think we want to get out there and we want to perform. And he's coming out with an EP of his singer-songwriter. He's coming out with an EP of his music that he's written.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing piano on it, and so that is also a great performance opportunity for us. But also the B3D EDM pop kind of style music that we do. I mean, that is definitely something that we need to and are working towards performing these things live.
I mean that you can dance at home alone in your apartment.
Yes.
I mean, all you need is a bottle of wine and some good speakers.
Yeah. Some lights and stuff. Yeah, no. Have a party by yourself.
No, I mean, yeah, it's and the EDM crowd is such a different vibe than the live concerts that I give or frequently give.
Yeah.
It's a very different sensibility, and it's a very, the visual is just, it can be almost as important as the auditory, and it presents a whole unique set of challenges in and of itself. So it's just another thing that, you conquer, but that is what you're shooting for, down the line a bit.
Yeah, because we're musicians and producers, but we're also artists. We have that need. Musicians
Need for attention?
Always feel that. Musicians, I believe, always want to play for people. They want to share their music with people, and we feel that way too. And so that is definitely something that is a part of B3D and what we do and want to do.
Do you do any, not so much necessarily, obviously you mentioned that you don't do a lot of the classical anymore, but do you still perform live just on piano? Yeah, I mean,
with people, yeah.
So what else are you doing, performing wise?
Yeah, so I play with Issa and when that's been interesting because you gotta haul a keyboard around with you because most of these venues don't have a keyboard or a piano. So I went from being like, oh, I play that instrument that's provided. I don't have to carry my instrument around. And, now I find myself...
if it's not in tune, it's not my fault.
Yeah, right. It's not my fault. If the action's messed up.
You can still tell I'm good.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now I'm lugging around like a 55-pound keyboard with like a rolly case, Well,
I mean, that's obviously and New York is a great place to do that. The subway system is really makes itself so it's easy to carry around large things on the train.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean...
Or have you just made really good friends with your Uber?
Gosh, yes. That's what has happened. Yeah, I'm not about to be lugging. I'm not like a 6 foot, 200-pound muscle man, I'm...
Actually, she totally is.
Yeah, I'm actually really buff. I look like Ronda Rousey. No, I don't. So that's been interesting. But I still enjoy performing, and I do like that there isn't that huge amount of stress related to... Because every time I play a song, it sounds different. I don't play the same notes every time. I am in a way still improvising. in a structured way. So it is nice to be able to play your music that you wrote as opposed to someone else's music.
Who's been dead for 200 years. Who's been dead
for a while. And that's the other cool thing, too, is like having that database of knowledge of all these classical pieces. You know, this isn't like copyright infringement. You can totally borrow something from Beethoven or from Brahms or whoever, you know. And Clean Bandit is a great example of that. They have inspiration, like stuff from like Dvorak and stuff like that, you know. So
you have these.
This is like
these
a
riffs built into your fingers at this point.
Database of dead composers that you can't get sued by, 'cause, you know what I mean. So that's also like a huge asset I've noticed in having. Yeah.
B3D is your main thrust. It's your company. It's your partner. Do you still have apart from that, which that major portion of your life? Do you still have or what ambitions do you still have as a performer, as a producer, as a, you know, just kind of on your own? I'm not saying like, are you planning on breaking up the band? You know, not at all. Bruno, if you're listening to this, that's, you know, no, she doesn't want to leave you. This is good. But you know, creating your own, you know, creating specifically your thing.
Yeah.
Do you think about that? Are there specific, you know, things that you're really wanting to do?
I just want to be a musician, and I want to be a producer who works with the top artists in the industry. You know, that's what I want to do, and I want to also, you know, play live, and I would still love to be hired as a pianist to go on tour with so and so artist. You know, why not? If it's music related, I'm down. I'm there. I'm there.
Give me a call.
You know, but yeah, my focus is becoming, and my focus is being the best producer I can be and working with the best artists that I can. That is, you know, what I want, and that's my goal, and that's what I'm working towards. Where I'll be in 20 years, I have no clue.
Oh, of course.
Where I'll be in 2 years, I have no clue. But
hopefully not in this apartment.
Because like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, if you had asked me, what is it that you want to do? I would have never thought that I would be doing this in my life. So
it's
things changed.
Well, but what happens if you just decided to not go to Manus? You know, like. And end up in New York. Like, I'm sure there were other places that you were considering.
Well, that was a really, like, weird time for me because I was literally at the point of, like, maybe just staying in Boston. But... And to be fair, you can do that kind of stuff in Boston, but it's not the same kind of scene, not even close. Right. And that was, if I had stayed there, that would have been more of a comfort thing for me because I had been going through a lot of personal turmoil with things then. But I decided to push myself and move to a city that I honestly did not like.
How dare you?
I know. Can you believe that? It was just so much. I remember the first 2 months living here, I had a headache every day. Maybe it's because I was living like in Hell's Kitchen near Times Square. But it took me a while to be able to operate and not be overwhelmed with everything that was going on because it was so insane. But moving to New York City and making that leap of faith for myself was the best thing I could have done.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, there are moments in your life when you just have to believe in yourself and try something that scares you and just do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's balls out or go home. That's always how I kind of felt. Like, don't be a little...
That should be the name of your first solo album.
Can I curse? Like, don't be a little bitch. Like do what you need to do and go get it done. Like, you know, no matter what's going on, you know, in your life.
The difference between performing for...
I know where you're going with this. Yes.
So, 20 years of your life spent primarily performing classical music. I mean, obviously you spoke about, you know, some of the other more improvisational stuff you did, but, you know, all right, go again. You're doing your recitals as is required for a music degree, and you're performing in chamber groups for smaller older skewing audiences.
Mhm.
So when you first made that shift to performing for a much younger, much less buttoned up, crowd where, hey, you're allowed to have a beer when you're standing right in
Oh,
front of the
right.
stage.
Yeah.
Or, there are people doing cocaine off the, in the bathroom.
It is New York City.
I mean, well, yeah. You don't have to be at a concert venue to get that. But, but so when you started being a part of that world instead, like, better, worse, more, the difference in feeding off a crowd's energy as opposed to being in a silent room where you're actually discouraged from, making approving noises.
Right. Well, so I would say it goes two ways. In the classical music setting, people are there because they know what the program is going to be or they're familiar with the music, right? So they're sitting there by choice because they know, generally speaking, what they're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a very uptight environment. It's very stressful. You don't want to you've been working, a year maybe on repertoire. Like, this is your chance to showcase it. You don't want to make mistakes. So the other end of it is if you're playing for a group of people and you're playing original music, they may not be familiar with your stuff. That may be the first time they're hearing it. So whereas you could play in a concert hall with X amount of people who are familiar with the music, that is a different feel from playing something fresh at Ella Lounge, who can maybe hold 30, 40 people, you know what I mean? And they may not have heard your music before, but it's totally not stressful. It's liberating because you don't have to play every single right note, So there is a weird kind of pro and con, I would say, of both sides.
But you still have to take your music and smack them across the face with it and be like, hey, listen to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to get them.
It's easier to not
regardless,
listen.
yeah, in both situations, you have to engage the audience and get them really interested in what you're doing, absolutely. It's part of the showmanship, right?
But you're not dealing in a recital setting. You're not dealing with the challenge of if someone's not interested, they'll probably just, if they're really not into it, they'll probably just leave quietly.
Mm-hmm.
At a rock show. They might leave, or they might just stay around, get super drunk, and throw things at you.
Oh my gosh, I haven't experienced that, thank God. But
might,
yeah.
That's what bouncers are for. But
yeah, true that.
Cool. So just let's do a quick roundup of dates.
Mm-hmm.
Where people can find you.
Yes.
Hey, we might both not be a fan of social media, but guess what? It's an integral part of our lives.
It is. It sure is.
So first, Facebook.
So we have a Facebook page. It's called B3D Music Productions.
I found out something interesting while searching you guys on Google.
What?
B3D is also some nerdy computer related programming thing.
No. Really?
Yeah. I mean,
that's not us.
if you put in B3D music, works great.
That's so funny. Yeah. If you're gonna Google us, Google B3D music for sure.
So Facebook, B3D Music Productions.
Yes.
Twitter
is B3D_music. Same for Instagram. And our website is b3dmusic.com. SoundCloud, B3D Music.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah.
So,
YouTube, B3D Music. You can find our channel there. Yeah.
Don't get the nerdy computer stuff. Get the awesome music, guys.
Yeah.
And next B3D single, late September.
So we're gonna be releasing the remix. When is this gonna air, by the way?
Well, we can talk about that after.
Let me see. Hold on. Okay, so on August 28th, the remix will be put out on SoundCloud for hire. And that'll be a free download, which will be great. And we'll also have a remix style kind of YouTube video for that as well.
Like how you made it, or what do you? Oh, you mean you remixing the video? Sorry.
Yeah, kind of like giving like a visual aspect for the remix, which will be nice.
Well, who designed the visuals for that?
I just took a lot of the stock footage from the director who filmed the original music video, and then I kind of put it together and try to create something cool out of that.
Sounds fun.
And then our next single, Find You, will be released September 25th. And that'll be on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. Higher is already on all of those outlets. So Find You will be there. And then Issa will be, her album that we produced will be out October, I believe.
And she just goes by Issa? Great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Deb, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This has been really fun. It's been a while since we talked. It's been great. No, I'm terrible at keeping in contact with people, and that's something that this has really forced me into doing. And,
that's awesome.
And it's awesome, and I love talking to people about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you're at a gig and you're hanging out with an oboe player and a cellist, and you're like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And why not talk about it and have other people listen to it?
Yeah. No, this has been great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Racing in the dark full speed, and everywhere you turn you find something. A memory, a masterpiece, the photographs of everything you think about when you sleep at night. A memory, a masterpiece, the photographs of everything.